Hello everyone, and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7 for the final round of the Trans Am Championship Season 3. I apologise that this video has taken a while to get out, but as you can see, it's quite a long one. Here are the championship standings heading into this round. John Cena has already won, we confirmed that last time out, so it's just all for fun for Tita this time, but it's all to play for second in the standings. Ferbs is in the best position, tied with Artsy on points on 88, but has more room for improvement. Bananotto and Jester, though, are also in the fight, so watch out for them. But yeah, not much can change for us unless we beat Uncle Pete by quite a few positions. But I'm mostly just looking to have some fun in this round because I've taken to the wheel of the Superboat for this one. The Plymouth Superbird, not the best car to choose in Trans Am, but I haven't driven it for a while, not since Season 1, Round 5, so thought it was about time to get it out again and give it a run here at Le Mans. But I've changed the livery very slightly. I've just made the paint colour a shiny orange as we go very deep into Mulsanne Corner and straight into the barrier. No chance of stopping there. And with the heavy damage we have, I need to go back to pit lane and come out again because there's no way I'm going to do a lap like that. So yeah, it is wet weather, as you can see, which yeah, just caught me out of that corner. Probably broke late anyway, and yeah, had no chance of stopping. So yeah, even on our next out lap, I did go off again, not as badly, but yeah, that corner proving very difficult, so I'm going to have to watch out for that and be pretty careful in the race itself, because I'm not going to have much of a chance to practice that more in these conditions. I did consider driving the Chevy Nova, but I actually felt more comfortable in this car in the wet conditions. The Nova didn't actually feel very good in the rain, despite how nice it felt at Monza, but that of course was a fully dry race. But anyway, we get our qualifying lap started, and we'll see how things go for us. Not expecting anything really out of this lap. I'm just hoping to get a time on the board, and you know, if anything happens in the race, we'll pick up the pieces. But yeah, I'm going into this race with zero expectations out of this car. Somehow managed to crash in a straight line as Jester goes through. Not sure what happened there, but anyway, that was on the run up towards Indianapolis, but it doesn't even matter because we're actually not going to be able to complete this lap, nor will Jester. We both ran out of time. So yeah, just due to the short time frame we had for this qualifying session, there was no way that I could get a lap time in after that little crash on our first out lap. So yeah, we set no time in qualifying, and we are not alone in that camp. In fact, only 4 drivers set qualifying times out of the 11 of us here. That is kind of crazy. But John Tita took pole position in a new car for the series, the Chevy Chevelle SS454 1970. So straight to the top for the brand new car, which is cool to see. Ash is back as well, which is awesome. So we've got the 2 series champions of the past seasons and of this season as well, I guess, on the front row. So it's going to be a good battle between those two. And yeah, neither of them are in that fight for second, so everyone else may be fighting over the scraps. But it's a long race. 2 hours lie ahead. All 3 tyre compounds, hards, mediums and softs, required for this race. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But yeah, for some reason I was given 5th place on the grid out of all of us who did not set qualifying times, so that is going to make the start of this race very interesting. So hopefully it all goes smoothly. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll have a little run through the starting grid and we'll see what tyres everyone is starting on. Here we go then, the final round of Trans Am Season 3. John Teeter starts on pole position on the soft compound tyres for the now two-time champion. Ash, the Season 2 champion, starts on the hards. Starting in P3, we have Artsy on the soft compound tyres, and the other Thunder driver, Heafy, starts in P4, also on the soft compound tyres. Starting out of P5, it is myself in the Superboat on the soft compound tyres. Then it's Uncle Pete out of P6 on the hards in the C2 Corvette. Starting out of P7, we've got Sparrow back again, and he's starting on the softs. Jester on the hards in the other C2, desperate to take a victory in that car specifically. Banana Notto starts out of P9 on the softs. And then rounding off the grid, we have the two Street Styling sponsored drivers, Verbs and Jokin, both on the hard compound tyres for those two. So, that is how we all line up for this 2-hour race at Le Mans. But how will we finish is the big question. A long race lies ahead, and we fire up the engines, ready to go racing here at Le Mans. The lights are out and we're underway for 2 hours of Trans Am action, and immediately off the line we gain a spot. Heafy getting a pretty slow start as Artsy is trying to find his way through there and not able to make any progress. Still sits in third position as there's a bit of kerfuffle going on there. Teeter out wide and Artsy in the middle, 3 wide into turn 2. We try and stick it down the inside of Artsy as he backed out there. Ash takes a bit of a shortcut through the right-hander, maintains a second position, and on the exit here comes Heafy with a whole heap of straight line speed and good traction, and gets past Uncle Pete. There's a little look down the inside of Sparrow as well. Back on board with myself, we can't quite get past Artsy. We remain in 4th position as Artsy's full send round the outside of Ash. We have a bit of a wobble. Jester goes through as well as Heafy, and we are continuing to drop back as down the inside comes Uncle Pete. We're not going to fight that too hard. We'll just take the apex behind and move ourselves ahead. Sparrow with the push on the exit, trying to get us up to speed as on board with John Teeter. Here comes Ash flying along the straight in that lovely Demon Swap Charger, and now on board with Heafy. Great straight line speed, splitting the middle there and moving up into a second position. Here comes Artsy, and Artsy's trying to pass John Teeter as well, so Teeter's dropped 3 spots on the straight. Artsy using the full force of the engine braking there, trying to get us stopped into the first chicane as Ash goes a bit deep, and that could give Artsy and Heafy an opportunity as Artsy's got the run on the exit. A little bit of contact, but side by side with Ash now on the exit, and might be able to take the lead here. Ash clearly burning the fuel mixers there, and drives away on the exit. On board now with Heafy again, charging through in a straight line, so plenty of straight line speed out of the judge as Uncle Pete's also got the engine turned up to make a few overtakes early in this one, and has made a whole bunch of spots there. On board with myself now as Jokin gets down the inside. We're not trying to make too much of a fight out of this first lap. I'm just trying to survive, to be honest, as on board with Uncle Pete. Bit of a moment there. Oh, big moment, big slide on the curb. That allows John Teeter to get back through, back on board with Verbs, and Verbs has plenty of straight lane speed to get past myself there as we try and slot in behind. Bit of a wobble and a bit of slight contact, I think, with Banana Notto, but no harm done. We'll carry on board with Ash now. Heafy late on the brakes down the inside, but is he a bit too late as we head into Mulsanne corner? Heafy goes deep and a bit of slight contact on the exit, but Ash will get back through and retake the race lead. On board with myself, we've managed to navigate that corner all right as Jokin and Ferb switch places on the exit. Jokin had a bit of a slide, I think, as on board with John Teeter now pulling up alongside Artsy, starting to increase the fuel map in the Chevelle and generate a bit more straight line speed. Banana Notto gets past myself as on board now with Uncle Pete, risking it on the left hand side, almost on the grass on the entry, and gets through, moves up into second position on board with Heafy now. Has Pete gone a bit too late on the brakes though into Indianapolis. He's out high and wide on the coloured runoff, dive down the inside, wipes Ash off the road. He turns right into the runoff, and they're both going to lose a whole bunch of places. Sliding on the exit for Heafy. Artsy into the race lead now. We're pushing Ash on the exit as he rejoins in front of us. Little look down the inside, but they're 3 wide as Sparrow's back into this fight as well. And Sparrow goes a bit wide, not the only one here, as on the exit of Arnage. Got some good traction here. We get past Sparrow and Ash, and we might get Ferbs as well. So we're gaining 3 places along the run towards the Porsche curves, and we might actually get past Banana Notto as well. We've got great speed, bit of slipstream, and we'll make the move to the inside, and we'll get past Banana Notto as back to John Teeter. He's up into the lead, but can't get us stopped into the Porsche curves, runs it deep and off into the sand, and that's going to dump a whole bunch of places all the way back down into last position, first to last for John Teeter. What a disaster at the Porsche curves. Now on board with myself, we're up into P5 all of a sudden with all of that, and now around the outside of Jester into 4th position. So we are absolutely flying in these conditions, and we have made a good progress in the second half of the first lap on board with Uncle Pete, who gives Sparrow and Ash the hurry up, and they both get past Ferbs through these last few corners. But I imagine all the hard tyre runners will be peeling off into pit lane, and there they go. Pete's in, Joken, Ferbs, Ash and Jester all coming into the pit lane as well. So that is going to break up this pack a little bit. We will run wide out of the final corner though, and that is going to be very costly for us. Banana Notto gets through, and will not be the only one, because here comes a Sparrow as well down the inside on the horn, and makes that move, as we actually had a bit of contact there as we had a wobble at a very bad time. But down the inside goes Sparrow, and we'll get the move done on Banana Notto. So Sparrow finding some good speed as big slide on the exit. That Camaro is a touch on the wild side on board with John Teeter now, and he's got a nice run here. A little look down the inside, backs out of it, goes for it again, but we're already aiming for the apex. A bit of contact there, but we both keep things pointing forwards, and John Teeter will have to try again as we head on to the back straight through. Tetra is wide off the apex there for myself, and Teeter will easily get through on the inside, probably for the best, and we'll just focus on our own race, because I'm not planning to be competing with John Teeter in this one. Joken into the pits as well as all the others, and everyone who's stopping on the first lap, getting rid of the hards, all going on to the medium compound tyres. So it's Jester who comes out first of the stoppers, ahead of Ash, and then further back Joken, Ferbs and Uncle Pete. So yeah, they've mixed up their order a little bit. Of course, Ash lost a lot of time going off. We'll have a look at some replays of the start now, because we didn't quite see all the action. On board with Artsy, and actually bumps John Teeter well ahead of Ash, and then bumps Ash, gets him back alongside Teeter. Bit of contact between Ash and Teeter, which is what sent Teeter wide. Artsy tried to get through the middle, but then just backed out of it, broke a little bit early. We bump Artsy there, and we almost got the move done around the outside, but couldn't get traction on the curb. And then Artsy had a nice run, had a look down the inside of Ash there, couldn't do anything at that spot, and then we had a little look at this point, but we were never really in a position to make the move. Artsy round the outside of Ash, but again couldn't get it done around the outside, and just had to sloss in behind. This is the start on board with Uncle Pete, and Heafy ahead, very slow off the line. Uncle Pete trying to get the move done down the inside, but Heafy trying to build up the speed, and eventually is able to hold on to that one, as Pete is very much pinched on the inside line, and will actually get through eventually on Heafy. So yeah, it was a very mixed up start. Here's the view from Jester through the first few corners. Made a good start, has already moved up into 5th position from 8th, so gaining 3 spots off the start is not a bad effort. And then obviously we had that little moment right in front of Jester as we were probably just pinched a little bit on the inside as we were looking to the inside of Artsy, and that meant we had to turn a bit sharper, lost the rear end, and Jester was able to get through, read the play perfectly there, and got through, no contact made. Here's the onboard with Uncle Pete, and another angle of all this. Got through on Sparrow there, and made the move for myself as well. So Pete was flying at the start of the race, gaining a lot of places as well. So yeah, it was a very interesting first lap. Here's another bit of straight line action from Uncle Pete, showing the straight line speed of that car on board with Jokin as he made the move on Banana also as well early in this one. And the onboard with Ash as he went deep into the first chicane, just missed the braking point, split those bollards perfectly, and rejoined the circuit, and managed to hold on to the race lead despite getting a bit of a wobble on the exit. On board with Sparrow, this is one we completely missed, but Sparrow a little bit deep and sliding, big slide into the first chicane, and runs it out very wide on the exit, and drops down to the back. So yeah, that's what happened to Sparrow, why he sort of dropped out of the little fight with myself for a bit. Here's the onboard from Jokin, who just took it easy and was able to make that position. Banana Notto and Ferbs follow through. So yeah, it was a hectic first lap. Ash also went a bit deep, not quite as bad, into the second chicane, and yeah, was able to hold the lead there, but that could have been what gave Heafy the run. Here's the onboard with Artsy into the second chicane, gave Pete a little bit of a bump, which may have contributed to Pete going a little bit high and wide, and ultimately that slide on the exit curb of the second chicane. And then Artsy's view as Heafy made the dive down the inside of Ash, bumps Ash, and sends Ash into Heafy, so that could have been had a part to play in all that as well. Here's Jokin's onboard exit of Mulsanne Corner. There's the little slide on the exit, and that allowed Ferbs to move on through ahead of Jokin. So a lot happened in the first lap. I tried to cover as much as possible in the initial little look through, but on board with Ferbs now because Jokin was not hanging around, and decided to charge straight back through down the inside, and Ferbs let that one go. And John Teeton now the onboard heading up towards Indianapolis. A car on either side, Heafy and Pete, both are flying through. John Teeter sandwiched in the middle. Here's the onboard with Ash as Pete just went far too deep and out a bit wide into Indianapolis, and yeah, nothing Ash could have done about that. And goes off, rejoins slightly dangerously right in front of myself, but we were going quite slowly, so it's not a big deal. We gave him a little nudge, had to think about that move to the inside, but I didn't really plan on going 3 wide into Arnage. It's not the kind of corner you can get away with that too easily, as already a few running wide there, Jester, Ferbs and Sparrow. And then look at the traction we got on the exit. That is a great demonstration of the speed we were able to carry and come out of Arnage with. But here's the onboard with Uncle Pete, just couldn't get us stopped. Probably could have tried to turn it back harder to the left to avoid contact maybe, but ultimately it's a 2-hour race. No one got damaged, and even at the point we're heading through the Porsche curves, everyone was still within 5 seconds of each other. It was that tight in the field, so I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on this race. The weird thing about Teeter's off there, as we see the onboard from Artsy, he actually went back on the power, so it's not like he just ran in too deep. He put the power down and yeah, just ran off the road. So it was quite strange. But anyway, Jester off the road at Arnage as well, as we see on board with Banana Notto. And it seriously looked like I was about to clean bowl Jester out of the race there, but got away with it. I honestly thought I was too at that point. Here's Ash making the move around the outside of Sparrow, starting to make his way back through the field. is Ash at the Porsche curves, and yeah, is able to get through, and his Jester's on board as we made that overtake around the outside. And yeah, Jester taking it nice and easy on the inside line, tucked in behind Joken, who's well, they're both on the hard compound tyres, so we just have the traction on the softs, even in the super boat, to be able to get through. And finally, the onboard with John Teeter, looking at that little moment we had with Sparrow, just lost the rear end at an awkward time there. And that was just the first lap. So, on to the action of lap 2, and it's already on the back straight as Heafy has taken the lead ahead of Artsy. So, Heafy burning the fuel maps and yeah, using that straight line speed to gain a few spots early in this one, and I mean, it works, I suppose, in the wet conditions. You don't burn as much fuel anyway. Oh, deep goes Artsy there, sends Heafy off the road, Sparrow off in the background as well, so a few struggling to stop, and Sparrow will come back on, but will drop to the back of this queue. So unfortunate for Sparrow there, and yeah, now last of the soft compound tyre runners, but yeah, that was an awkward moment there. Heafy still leads ahead of Artsy, Banana Notto, John Teeter, myself, and then Sparrow rounds out the top 6. And we are the those who started on softs. And then the now medium shod runners, Jester leads that charge ahead of Ash. And then it is Joken, third in that queue, ahead of Verbs, and Uncle Pete tail ending that train of cars. So yeah, two distinct groups at the moment. We'll see how it all progresses as we see Heafy going a bit deep into Indianapolis once more. Looks like he'll hold on to the lead this time. We're in deep as well, and can't quite get the big boat stopped. We'll drop behind Sparrow and to the back of this train of cars. On board with John Teeter now as Teeter gets past Banana Notto, moves up into the top 3 and is gaining nicely on Artsy as well. Now to the exit of Arnage. Artsy putting the pressure on Heafy, but Artsy has to serve a penalty, presumably for the collision with Heafy back at the first chicane, and will drop back a few spots because of that, and in behind John Teeter. So yeah, that's you know, things are starting to settle down in the race now as people are you know, finding their I suppose natural place in the running order, and yeah, it's still going to take a bit as we see Uncle Pete charging into Indianapolis once more, and off the road there again. So Uncle Pete struggling with that section of the circuit a little bit at this stage of the race. Gets back on though, and will carry on in the old Corvette, the one of the oldest cars in this series at this point. But anyway, Ash, oh, deep at the Porsche curves, and off into the gravel there. So a mistake there from Ash. Second of those who have stopped. Joken deep as well. Ferbs wide, but able to get through. So a few mistakes still, you know, in these damp conditions. The track will soon start to dry, but that can sometimes only make things more difficult as we see Ash come around and head into the pit lane to get rid of those medium compound tyres. I think everyone else is planning to do a stint on the mediums of those who are running them at the moment. As you can see, Joken and Verbs going through the chicane for Joken, and picks up a penalty for that. So naughty, but we'll have to serve that around the other end of the circuit on the next lap. Here's the onboard of Joken, just getting it in too deep, couldn't get it stopped and turned, and straight across the chicane. But anyway, he'll carry on and serve that penalty after Arnage on the next lap. But anyway, back with Sparrow and Banana Notto, as Sparrow is through and moves up ahead, or maybe not, deep into the chicane, and Banana Notto is back through. So brief moment there of for Sparrow ahead, but Straight away dropping back. Oh, that's not looking good for myself though. Straight off the road of the first corner. And yeah, just clumsy moment. Jester goes through as he's already made up the time from that first pit stop. So yeah, it didn't, it struck me as a bit strange that he was able to catch up that quickly, but now that I sort of think about it, when you make a pit stop in the wet conditions, everyone else is going slower, so you're effectively saving a bit of time, which is not something I really considered. Yeah, that's interesting. But anyway, Ash got the new tyres on, and we'll run softs for the rest of the race. But anyway, what's Artsy doing? Charging along the back straight in the boss, heading into the first chicane. Is he going to be able to get a stop this time? Not quite. Off into the gravel, actually well deep into that gravel trap. So yeah, an awkward moment for Artsy, and not the only awkward moment, as Banana Notto had to dodge Artsy on the rejoin there, and Jester in deep as well. So yeah, not easy. That's first chicane in these conditions. On board with myself, and look at that, we're straight off the road as well. So yeah, it's tough to judge these braking zones in these conditions that are constantly changing, and yeah, it's a tricky phase of the race. But anyway, as Artsy comes through the second chicane, bit of a wobble on the exit, way out to the outside wall there, and just an awkward moment there as Jester's out wide as well. Into the barrier goes Jester, and that has got to be damage to the Corvette. That was a pretty significant hit and a disaster for Jester. He was making really good pace on those mediums, but that has not gone well. We'll need to see another angle of that. Here it is on board, and just drifted out well out wide on the exit on the wet stuff, and couldn't keep it in a straight line. The car just went and straight into the barrier. Very hard hit, and yeah, that's done some significant damage to the front bar and steering to that car. So yeah, that's not good. But we'll see if Jester either chooses to box or carry on. But yeah, that's significant damage to the Corvettes, unfortunately for Jester. Here it is on the onboard. Look at those wipers, they look cool. But yeah, straight in on the front left corner, and recovered very quickly though, so didn't lose too much time out of it, given some of the other mistakes we've seen. I don't think it'll be too bad, but it's how much ongoing issues that damage will cause that you know, is really going to be the potential issue, I suppose. But anyway, on board with myself, and we look back just in time to see Verbs going through, and yeah, we're not going to make a big deal out of that, as we're a bit late on the brakes. And the good thing about the Superbird is its one redeeming quality is the brakes. We can brake pretty late in this car, so if it does look like I'm in a bit deep and about to bump into the car in front, I'm probably not. And we've seen that 2 or 3 times in this race already, that yeah, this car is very good on its brakes. But anyway, on board with Artsy, who is trying to recover from those couple of moments earlier in the race, and is thinking about the move on Banana Notto. Maybe a switch back here through the chicane, and yeah, good drive on the exit to get through, and nicely done there by Artsy, and job done up another position. But back on board with myself. First corner again, struggling to get it turned. There's very much a dry line there now, and we actually quite similarly follow our wheel tracks from the previous lap. So once you get out onto that wet stuff, it is pretty treacherous. So yeah, you can see that dry line and how we just missed it. You know, it's a tough corner to judge regardless, that first corner in the Trans Am cars. But yeah, just got it wrong 2 laps in a row there, and eventually Uncle Pete will get past us as well. We drop down into second last position. So yeah, things not going too well for us at the moment. but hopefully we can stay competitive with Uncle Pete throughout this race. I think that is the most likely outcome, but I'm not sure if we can do that. But yeah, Uncle Pete having a bit of moment there at the second chicane, and that gives us the spot back for the time being. I'm assuming Uncle Pete is burning the fuel maps, the higher fuel maps. So I'm hoping that as we go very wide there, we can get him back on fuel strategy. As wow, that was that was very close to what happened with Ash, but thankfully Pete kept it nice and tucked in on the left-hand side this time and avoided contact. On this occasion, we were deep into the right-hander. Pete was deeper, just couldn't get us stopped. But yeah, this time kept it very much on the left-hand side, close to that inside wall, and was able to pick the gap without any collision. Here's the onboard with Uncle Pete, and yeah, you can see made the decision, turned it left there this time, and hit the wall, but didn't take me out. So that's definitely a good thing. But anyway, as we continue to carry on, Pete lets Ash go through. Pete's got damage to that car. So the two Corvettes, actually the first two cars to sustain any level of damage in this race, unfortunately for them. So yeah, that's not good. They're not the easiest cars to drive. They always look a little bit sketchy even at the best of times. But we let Ash through and plow ourselves off the road once again at the first corner, but hopefully we'll be able to get under control shortly. We have to learn at some point. Here comes Uncle Pete once again, getting the run on the exit. As a penalty hanging over his head though, for a little shortcut at some point, but regardless, Pete gets through and we'll drop down into P11 once more. But we'll see what we can do throughout the rest of this race. Hopefully we can just keep it clean. That's really all I'm hoping for, is just to have a clean run, as Artsy again struggling through the first chicane. And yeah, it's becoming the story of the race, is just these little mistakes creeping in for so many of the drivers here. But Heafy is under heavy fire from John Teeter. And along the straight, John Teeter in the slipstream, really putting the pressure on in the Chevelle. It's a really nice looking car, actually. I love that Chevelle, and I can't wait to see it a little bit more in this series. It really does look the part. As they head into Mulsanne corner, looks like Heafy's got things under control at that corner finally in the Judge. And the Judge itself, I think, is a car that's never really had its moment to shine in Trans Am. As far as I can remember, it's never won a Trans Am race before. So who knows, maybe this is the day. Heafy's looking strong at this point in the race, but Teeter is absolutely piling on the pressure, as I mentioned, and not letting Heafy get more than about 20 meters up the road at any given time. So yeah, the pressure is well and truly on between these two, and they are sprinting at the moment. Meanwhile, back with Sparrow, big slide into Indianapolis, but still gets it stopped nicely there. So Sparrow pushing on hard in the Camaro and doing a good job at the moment. Although wide into the barrier there, that's not so good, and that's damage for Sparrow with that contact with the barrier, and just push things a little bit too far. And at that moment, Uncle Pete, another moment at Indianapolis. Can he get a stop this time? Just about. Not the cleanest run, but we'll get away with it on this occasion. So yeah, Uncle Pete really pushing it through there, and having a few scrappy moments with that penalty. We might be able to get through though on Uncle Pete, as we're close enough behind now to take advantage of that, and we move ourselves ahead of the older Corvette. So yeah, nice opportunity there for us as we go on board with Banana Notto into pit lane, and Sparrow, of course, comes in as well with that damaged Jester, has evidently decided to carry on with the damage from that moment earlier, as we see no tyres going on for Banana Notto. Sparrow, though, will move on to the hard compound tyres, as everyone must use them at some point in this race. So it'll probably be a one-lap stint for Sparrow, as Uncle Pete comes into the pit lane. Of course, damage to repair for both Sparrow and Pete now, I think, as on the exit, Banana Notto just cuts the pit exit line. So that is a 3-second penalty for Banana Notto. Naughty naughty, as into the pits, into the box comes Uncle Pete, and that's a set of softs that go on to the Corvette. So as we continue back on board with myself, you can see weather radar completely clear now. The track certainly you know, drying up, and yeah, it's basically business as usual at this point. So, oh, big drift through Tetra Rouge there for Uncle Pete. Here's the onboard, and got it all cranked sideways onto the back straight, but managed to keep the speed up and keep everything pointing in the right direction. Nothing new for Uncle Pete, driving sideways. But anyway, Sparrow comes into the pits at the end of that lap, and no surprise there. And I presume we'll be fitting the medium compound tyres at the end of this lap, as to Indianapolis. Uncle Pete again, very deep out wide there through the wet stuff, and gets a stop this time. So nicely done, Uncle Pete, and gets away with it on that occasion. But yeah, still just shows it's so easy to make mistakes around this circuit in these conditions that are, you know, ever changing, and you know, it's always getting wetter or drier, or you know, whatever it might be. But Sparrow's in the box, and we'll get a set of the mediums on for the next stint, as Artsy comes into the chicane, drifts it in this time, manages to keep it on the road, doesn't run in too deep on this occasion, as yeah, Artsy is starting to get into the rhythm at this stage of the race, and we're all sort of getting to that point now that the track has has dried up, that we can settle down and just you know, trudge on throughout the race basically, and see where we all come out at the end. It's a little bit difficult even to plan strategies exactly. You don't know when the next lot of rain's going to come, as Pete's wide at the first corner, but keeps it under control. You don't know when the rain's going to come. You don't know exactly how many laps the race is going to be. So it is a tricky one. But as we return to the battle for the lead, Heafy still holding Teeter at bay, and doing a great job in the judge to be able to do that. The Chevelle right tucked in behind, though. There's really been nothing to separate these two for a couple of laps now, as Heafy dives it into the pit lane and Teeter follows. So mirroring each other's strategies there as they come in to the lane, as Jester brings it around and will come into the box as well. So yeah, a few more stoppers on this lap, as we see Artsy come through now and into the race lead. So a bit deep though, but keeps it on the road. So that is interesting. It's going to be so hard to really know who is where in this race until the end, or at least until everyone has made their final stops. But Teeter, a very short stop, and onto the hard compound tyres, comes out just in behind Ferbs there, ahead of Joken. So Teeter onto the medium compound tyres, I believe, actually, and we'll get those out of the way now, as Jester is in for the softs, and to repair that bit of damage from earlier, as Uncle Pete is a bit deep into Mulsanne, but gets away with it, and just about keeps it on. So yeah, it's been a tricky race for Uncle Pete, and that's another moment and a full spin into into Indianapolis there, so the mistakes continue for Uncle Pete, and a nice little drifto to get moving again, and yeah, we'll carry on, but yeah, Uncle Pete has lost a lot of time in this race due to all of these moments, but he will carry on, and it'll still be interesting to see how things play out between the two of us, because the superboat is not particularly fast, so as we let Sparrow through there, it's very possible that Pete will still be able to keep up, even with all of the sideways action. But anyway, yeah, we let Sparrow go there, and Sparrow immediately heads into the pit lane, so a little bit frustrating, but nonetheless we'll carry on. Not a huge deal, we didn't lose too much time out of it, but yeah, that's another lap in the books for us, as Sparrow comes into the box, and now it will be, I believe, the soft tyres going on for Sparrow, and he'll use those that compound for the rest of the race, as we look back further towards the front of the field, and the second place runner in particular, it is Ferbs coming into the pit lane next. John Teeter as well, and Joken all coming in to the lane. And remember, Joken and Ferbs have already done their hards and mediums, so they'll be going on to the softs, as Pete's very deep and off into the gravel trap there at the end of Mulsanne, so another off for Uncle Pete, and yeah, it's not going well. But anyway, into the box comes Teeter. It'll be the hard compound tyres going on, and then Joken and Ferbs will be going on to the softs, I believe. So yeah, they've already done their the less desirable compounds, and we'll be running the softs for the rest of the race, as around the final few corners we see Heafy come in to the pit lane now, and that'll be another pit stop coming up for Heafy, and Heafy also started on the softs, so presumably went on to the hards for that stint, and potentially mediums for the next one. It's finally time for us to come into the lane, and it's now time for us to get these hard tyres on, and get these out of the way. I'm not looking forward to this stint, but in comes Heafy to the box, and hard tyres come off, medium tyres go on, and that is pit stop done for Heafy, as we return to Uncle Pete, who has featured much in this highlights reel, and will feature once again a big off, and way off the road at the Porsche curves, taking an alternate layout of Le Mans. I don't think anyone else has discovered there, but anyway, gets back on, and we'll carry on once again. So yeah, that's another moment, but into the box for myself, and like I said, we're going to get the hard compound tyres on the car now, and get a, well, maybe not a full load of fuel. As I was filling up, I did consider short filling it, just because this is going to be a short stint anyway, as Pete comes into the pit lane not after a full stint on those soft tyres, so I'm not sure if he got damage or if he just decided to make a pit stop. But anyway, like I said, we didn't fully refuel for this, just so the car's a bit lighter for this stint, and yeah, we'll carry on in this race on the hard compound tyres for a lap, and I'm actually not going to go into the mediums. You know, almost everyone is doing the hard and medium stints next to each other, but I'm actually going to save the mediums possibly for the final stint, where I can, you know, minimize it as much as possible. We'll see how long that final stint ends up being, but anyway, pit stop there for Pete, and new set of soft tyres that go on. But anyway, we'll check in on our race leader Artsy, and Artsy doesn't seem to be at full power along the run towards the Porsche curves, and there may be an issue with that car. Artsy yet to stop in this race, and that may be the explanation actually, because I think Artsy's found himself in a critical fuel situation, has been limping around this lap, and now has completely run out, and it has to just coast back to the pit lane. So a painful moment for Artsy in this race. Was leading and running well, but now has a long way to make it back to the pit lane. Here comes Ash around the outside and gets through into the new race lead. But yeah, Artsy has a lot of recovery to do in this race if he wants to salvage a result, especially for that fight for second in the championship. This is a critical mistake, just running a lap too long, and that is potentially game over for Artsy in the championship. But we'll have to see how it all plays out. But this is such a long drive back to the pit lane, locked at a very low speed, and just trying to drag the car back. Oh, here comes Banananotto to the rescue, gives Artsy a little push and a little helping hand into the pit lane. So that's very nice. Another one there, and they will both come in for another stop. Oh, Artsy across the pit entry line there, so that could be a penalty just to make matters worse. Into the gravel trap we go at the end of the Mulsanne Straight. Not ideal, and we basically do a carbon copy of what Uncle Pete did not too long ago. So yeah, still struggling a bit in this race with a few of the braking points. But Banananotto comes in, medium tyres go on, soft tyres for John Teeter, who's also in the lane. Mediums go on for Artsy there, as we see Ferbs coming along the pit straight, and we'll swoop up a couple of those positions. But Banananotto comes out in front and did not actually refuel in that pit stop. Of course, he just pit to give Artsy a little push, potentially not pitting on strategy, or potentially just planning to do one lap on those tyres. Ouch! That was a severe impact with the barrier there. Somehow we get away with no damage. Just couldn't get it stopped on these hard compound tyres into the pit lane, and some miracle we got away with no damage there. So we'll thank our lucky stars for that one, and yeah, we'll carry on. Didn't even get a pit lane line cutting penalty, in fact, probably because this car's so big it didn't actually fully go over the line. But yeah, that was a bit of a weird one. But anyway, we'll refuel and put the softer compound tyres on, as we see John Teeter on the back of Artsy, who has that penalty to serve. But John Teeter's going to get the move done in a straight line anyway and move ahead of Artsy along the run towards the second chicane on the back straight. We come out of pit lane then, and we have a penalty, but it's just a shortcut penalty from earlier in the previous lap, not for cutting the pit entry line. So yeah, that is that's been an interesting few moments in this race, and certainly will impact the end results. Where Artsy will eventually filter out, it is hard to say. But anyway, back to Ash, who holds down the race lead at the moment, and is looking very, very strong. Yeah, remember, only did the one stop, or the one lap rather, on the mediums, so has a little bit longer to go, I suppose, in this stint, but will eventually come in to the pit lane for the next stint, and will of course get a new set of soft compound tyres on and refuel as Artsy comes charging into Indianapolis and off the road there. And again, quite similar to what myself and Pete did, minus the little stylized flick. Artsy just sort of drove off and came back on. But anyway, into the box comes Ash, and it's going to be another set of softs, of course, having already fulfilled the tyre requirements. Can use the best compound for the rest of the race, as deep into the Porsche curves for Heafy there, comes back on. But that is going to prove costly, because there goes John Teeter, and they were fighting for positions earlier, but Heafy has made a mistake there and has let Teeter slip through. So it's unfortunate for Heafy, as into the box comes Banananotto, and it will be a set of the soft compound tyres going on for Bananonotto as we look back to Artsy, who's gone a little bit deep into Indianapolis. Now it's very close to the left side runoff there. We've seen what happened with Uncle Pete there a few times, but Artsy keeps it under control on this occasion, and we'll carry on. But deep into Arnash as well, so yeah, a bit of a scruffy few corners there for Artsy as we go back to Uncle Pete, who is weaving along the straight. Not sure what the deal is there, but Uncle Pete just warming up his tyres, and that's going to allow us to catch up. I'm guessing Uncle Pete's just waiting for me to catch up so we can have a bit of a battle on track. So we'll go zooming on through, and Uncle Pete gives us a little beep on the way past. I actually thought he must have had a spin or a crash there at the time, but no, he was just taking it slow for a while. So we'll see if Pete can catch up after giving away that little bit of time to myself. But anyway, back with Ash. And Ash goes charging on into the first chicane, a little bit deep again. So it's a running theme in this race, continuously seeing drivers deep into the chicanes. It's yeah, clearly going to continue throughout the entirety of this race, as we are in full combat with Uncle Pete. Even using a fuel map now to try to stay ahead briefly into map 1 there, but Uncle Pete now looking to the inside as we've calmed down the fuel map again. Are we going to be able to hold this one on the outside? Looks like we should be able to, as we drift a little bit wide there, but we're able to hold on to the position. Pete doesn't go full send down the inside as we're holding this one, and Uncle Pete starting to look high and low now through the Porsche curves as we are both fighting for control of our respective cars. Pete, I mean, that car looks like it's set up for drifting the way it slides around sometimes. This car, or the superboats that we are looking at rearwards, it just does this naturally no matter how you set it up. It's an awkward car to drive, but that's the fun of it, I suppose. It's a very satisfying car to drive when you do get through a corner nicely. That's Heafy having a bit of a moment there, but shouldn't lose too much time out of that one. A lot of us sort of running on our own at this point in the race. There's you know, a lot of different strategies playing out at different times as Pete gets the move done down the inside into turn 1. We weren't burning the fuel map there because I do ultimately need to look after the strategy in this race, and fuel map 1 does burn up a lot of fuel as Artsy gives Bananonotto the push along the back straight. That's a little bit of payback for getting the push into pit lane. Payback's not the right word, but anyway, Artsy off the road very deep into the second chicane. A little bit too focused on the push and not enough on actually making the overtake there. So a bit of a clumsy moment there for Artsy as we go on board with who's this? This is on board with Ash. And the rain coming down very suddenly, and this is going to make things very interesting in this race as the rain has just started pouring down out of nowhere. Ash with a great run down the inside of Jokin and gets the move done. The rain has already slightly eased off, but that might not be the end of it as through the final few chicanes, Ash is carrying great speed through here and has very quickly adapted to the rapidly changing amounts of surface water on the track, and will get past Verbs as well. So Ash is absolutely flying and has just gained 2 positions out of nowhere there as the weather has suddenly hit, and the track is going to continue to get wetter and wetter for a while. So that's going to very much make things interesting in this race as we see Heafy diving it on in to the pit lane, and we'll get another stop out of the way in this race. as we head into Mulsanne corner a little bit deep, and the gravel trap doing its job there, helping us slow down for the corner. And we'll carry on as we've just ticked over the halfway mark in this one. So yeah, still a long way to go. And Heafy comes into the box, and soft tyres go on for the judge there. But anyway, as we continue on, we are closing into Uncle Pete, who's having another moment into Indianapolis, and yeah, we'll see if we can take advantage of that. We've gained a bit of time there as we head now towards Arnage. Are we going to be able to gain any more here? Uncle Pete's in deep, and we will be able to get through a little bump on the way through as he was trying to rejoin the circuit there, but we're through and up into P10 once more. I think even if we finish in these positions, it's not enough for me to pass Uncle Pete in the championship because of my previous results that I need to improve on. So this fight isn't really for much between us, other than just pride on the day, I suppose. But yeah, big moment there, and we're able to swing through a little bit rudely there, but of course we had to take advantage of the little mistake there by Uncle Pete. But anyway, as we continue on, continuing to conserve the fuel as much as possible in this race, and we've basically just been running map 6 the entire time, especially when it's wet, just to try to control the traction a little bit. It's yeah, very much necessary. But anyway, as we are on board now once again with Banana Otto, heading out of Arnage up towards the Porsche curves. No other cars in sight, and just cruising around in this race. And oh, Banana Otto has disappeared from existence. That's interesting. What actually happened is I believe he had a power outage. Oh, there goes Artsy, I think that was. But yeah, not good. And we'll record a DNF in this race for Banana Otto, unfortunately. But anyway, on board with a Joken, and very close behind Ferbs through the first few corners. Ferbs goes wide, Joken will get through here, and that's a slightly orchestrated switching of positions there, as Joken seems to have the pace in the wet conditions. Ferbs struggling a little bit at this stage. As we continue on though, back on board with myself, still not too terribly far from Uncle Pete, who, well, we both go deep into the first corner. We have to try and get it stopped as he's sideways. We're heading straight for him for a moment there, but now we are fishtailing and trying to drag race our way towards the next corner. Pete, big slide across the road as we're both desperately trying to get the power down on the exit, and Uncle Pete's handled it a little bit better on that occasion after all of that fishtailing. And here's the replay of that moment, as we were for a brief moment there heading straight for a T-bone collision, but we're able to get it stopped enough to avoid that, as that's another deep moment into the chicane there for Joken. So yeah, so much going on in this race. Every time the conditions change, you need to readjust to all the new braking points, how much speed you can carry. We both go a little bit deep again into the second chicane. So yeah, I'm just following Uncle Pete really, and any mistake Uncle Pete makes I tend to do as well, just with understeer instead of oversteer. But yeah, we continue on this little battle that we've been having for a little while now, and we'll look forwards to Sparrow. Haven't seen Sparrow for a while in this race, but Sparrow brings it into the pit lane for another stop from 7th on track. Brings it in nice and easy through those chicanes, and oh, we almost wipe out Uncle Pete on the way into Mulsanne corner, and that is about as close as it gets. And we get away with it, just too deep on the brakes there again. The gravel trap doing its job to slow us down. Here's the onboard looking rearwards from Uncle Pete. Well, we'll come from way back, no chance of stopping there, and somehow we managed to avoid contact as we were trying to zip it in, and the car just wouldn't turn, wouldn't grip, And yeah, the gravel trap really saving us there from potentially, you know, a qualifying style collision that we had with the barriers. And anyway, Sparrow gets a new set of soft compound tyres on as we go back to Artsy charging along the back straight in the big Mustang Boss. What's gonna happen here? We've seen Artsy off a few times, and there's another one at the first chicane. So every time the conditions change, it's you know, another adjustment you have to make to your own driving, as we're getting blue flagged now in this race, and that is for Jester, who is catching up to us, but thankfully Jester will come into the pit lane, so we're not going to have to worry too much about that, and we'll carry on for the time being. But we're not too far away from dropping off the lead lap in this race. Hopefully that'll happen while we are in the pit lane, so we don't have to worry about it too much. But Ash running in second position also comes into the box, so that will help us a little bit in relieving that pressure from the leaders for a moment, and we can continue focusing on our battle with Uncle Pete. But Jester in, and it's of course more soft compound tyres going on for Jester, and then not too far behind is Ash coming in as well, and once again, soft tyres going on for Ash, and I think most people will be using softs at this point for the rest of the race. Notably, only myself, I think, has the medium tyres left to run. I'm not sure if Artsy's uses the hards either. As oh, speaking of Artsy, there's a big moment, and that has potentially made some significant contact with the wall there. We'll need to see another angle of it, but that did not look too good for Artsy. Here it is on board, and just got out into the wet stuff, lost control, and whack straight into the barriers there. So that's unfortunate for Artsy. Artsy gets going again though, but now has some damage to the rear end of that car. Back on board with myself then as we head into the first chicane, and it looks like Uncle Pete's had a bit of a moment, and we're going to be able to get back through here as Uncle Pete's still getting back up to speed, and that's going to be an easy pass for us there as we move ourselves back up into 9th position that we are actually fighting for now. I almost forgot that Banana Notto has dropped out of this one. Here's the replay of what happened with Uncle Pete. Way too deep, flicks it in backwards to get us stopped in the gravel trap, and then gets things turned around and moving again, but lost a lot of time and momentum with that spin. So yeah, that allowed us to sneak back through ahead of Uncle Pete once more, and yeah, we regain P9, a little beep of the horn there on the way through. But yeah, this it's a fun little battle we're having. I think, to be fair, Uncle Pete just has better pace than what I do, but the battle rages on regardless. Into the pits comes Artsy once again, and gets us stopped, and no cutting of the chicane there as Artsy brings it in, and that's going to be another set of the soft compound tyres going on for Artsy in the stop, and a load of fuel as well to get through the next phase of the race. Back on board with myself towards Indianapolis. Here comes Uncle Pete round the outside. He charges in but can't get us stopped. He's out on the wet stuff again. We're holding high and wide, and thankfully so, as Pete slides across in front of us, and we just about avoid the collision there. I kind of saw that coming, and yeah, we just about survive, but that's about as wild as it gets up at Indianapolis. We'll see the onboard with Uncle Pete, and again, just too deep into the right hand. A huge snap of oversteer out into the gravel even that time, and absolutely a passenger from that moment forward. Did a great job to pick the gap between myself and the wall, to be fair, and we lived to fight another day, but that just about gave me a heart attack at the time, although it was pretty funny nonetheless. But anyway, we continue to watch on as Ash goes off the road down at Mulsanne Corner. So Yeah, still mistakes creeping in, even for the drivers, right towards the front of the field, and in good shape to finish in the top few spots in the race. But anyway, we get all sorts of out of shape as we head into the pit lane, and we take it nice and carefully this time, not going to make the same mistake as before. And now we're going to use the medium compound tyres. We're close enough to the end of the race now that we can do a short stint on these and then go back onto the softs for the next or for the rest of the race. So Ferbs and Joe can also bring it in to the pit lane, and then a little bit further back John Teeter is also flying along, and we'll bring it in as well. So yeah, we're starting to maybe get an idea of who's where in this race as we get the medium compound tyres on, and a whole heap of fuel we're going to need to get to the end of the race from, well, we're not actually going to the end from here, but to get through the next stint. And Uncle Pete with the soft tyres going on. Next into the box is Ferbs, and of course soft tyres going on for Ferbs, as well as a load of fuel. Same can be said for Joken, and finally John Teeter into the box, and you'll never guess, it's soft tyres and fuel for John Teeter. So yeah, all pit stops done, and we'll see who emerges out first. But actually out on track at the moment, Jester takes the race lead, and this is why it's a bit tricky to know where everyone truly is, because it's hard to know how much more fuel Jester's going to need in the later stops. But I think sort of one stop to go for everyone at this point. That's sort of how I'm feeling at this stage of the race. We'll do I actually severely miscalculated my strategy at this stage, and for some reason I thought I could do one lap on mediums and then do the rest of the race on softs, but that was absolutely not the case, unfortunately. So we may have to do more stops than planned. But Joken comes out of the pit lane just in behind Ferbs, so it's now Jester in the lead ahead of Ash, then Ferbs, Joken, and in P5 John Teeter, who has a little bit of time to make up in this race, and I think in some ways is still trying to make up for that mistake on lap 1, dropping him to the back of the field then. Lost a bit of time in that, not too much though, but anyway, now looking to Sparrow, who's having a bit of a moment on the exit of Indianapolis. That'll give Artsy the run. It's only a short dash to Arnage though, as Sparrow's out a bit wide again and squirming on the exit, and that's going to allow Artsy through up into P7 for Artsy, still recovering from running out of fuel earlier in the race. Sparrow drops in behind in 8th position. Meanwhile, Ferb's bit of a moment at the first chicane, just running in a bit deep. Nothing new, something we've seen plenty of times throughout this race. Not a particularly dramatic occurrence of that. But anyway, back on board with myself as Uncle Pete is giving us the hurry along towards the second chicane, and we run a tiny bit deep, but not too bad, and we're able to hold on. Up in fuel map 1 at the moment, just trying to maintain this position on the medium compound tyres, and Uncle Pete in third person trying to figure out exactly where he is, how much speed he's got as we're along the straight, but I think we'll be okay to hold on for the time being. Back down into fuel map 6 as we head into the next corner, and way too deep. So that's the thing, when you turn the fuel map up, you sort of lose, you have to brake earlier as Ferbs gets past as well, as he's now putting us a lap down, and here comes Joken too, so we're just going to let Joken go through before we get racy again, but we've lost touch with Uncle Pete now. So yeah, that was probably a bit of a scary moment for Ferbs there, as we did rejoin a little bit awkwardly. We weren't too close. He was able to avoid that pretty easily, but yeah, we just kept it off for Joken as well, and we'll now carry on. But anyway, Uncle Pete now has to worry about them drifting away through the next few corners. Plenty of smoke coming off those tyres. Probably not great for the tyre wear, but like I said, we're not really fighting for much other than for P9 in this race. But anyway, Uncle Pete heads in to the final few chicanes as we let Tita go through as well. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this race plays out. I've sort of realized, I think at this point, that I very much miscalculated the strategy, and that I'm going to have to do 2 more stops if I stop on this lap. But I don't really like these medium tyres. I'm going to just go straight back onto the softs. We'll do the extra stop, and yeah, we'll potentially do maybe a later stop and just run flat out to the end in map 1. I'll do a pit stop late enough to do that. We'll have enough fuel to get to that point in the race at least. So yeah, then we can have a fast finish to the race, and you know, maybe set a personal best lap time or something. We certainly don't have the pace to go for a fastest lap of the race, but we can try to improve on what we've currently done. So we come out of pit lane after our penultimate stop, and we've got a full load of fuel, got some soft tyres on, and we can have some fun again in this race on a better compound as we go a little bit deep into turn 2. But anyway, further up the road, we've got Ferbs putting a lap on Uncle Pete, and no dramas there. And yeah, it's our challenge now to try and catch up to Uncle Pete. Now that we've got good tyres, we've got a good amount of fuel to use for the rest of the race. If we can do that, you know, fast final stint, hopefully that will give us the opportunity to catch up once again. But at the moment, Uncle Pete's still flying along with Joken and Ferbs drifting away through the second chicane. But anyways, we continue on. He pulls out the way and allows Joken to go through a bit wide on the exit there for Joken, as John Tita has really closed in to Joken and Ferbs. So Tita's decided to unleash the pace of the Chevelle at this point, as we carry on getting the blue flags again now as we head up towards Indianapolis. And that's Heafy going through this time. We'll let Heafy go through. Heafy's sort of dropped off the battle for the lead, so I don't think Heafy's in that fight. But I think the top 5, Jester, Ash, Joken, Ferbs and Tita, are definitely in that fight for the race win. But we'll see how it all goes, as a bit deep into the chicane goes Jester. And yet another moment at that part of the circuit that has proven so difficult throughout the course of this one. The chicanes, Mulsanne and Indianapolis have been the trouble corners. The Porsche curves a little bit, but to a lesser extent, I suppose. But yeah, the big braking zones are the ones that seem to be causing people the most problems. But anyway, back with Artsy now. What's going on here? A little bit of an off there. Not too bad. I've seen far worse at that zone of the circuit. Speaking of the Porsche curves, Artsy will carry on though with no dramas there. But anyway, as we continue to watch on. Oh, big moment, Uncle Pete there, just after Dunlop, and that is into the barriers, I think, for Uncle Pete. And weird moment there, as he went flying off on the right hand side. Not sure I've ever done that one before, but there you go. Uncle Pete has had a moment there, as we see John Tita making the move on Joken up into 4th place. So Tita is well and truly on the charge in this one, and has got some great pace to burn at this phase of the race, and is making a charge for the podium. Ferbs is actually not too far up the road, so there could be more positions to come very shortly for John Teeter, who won the first 3 races of the season, drove the Superbird at Monza, but now in the Chevelle seems back on form and has got that car flying along very, very nicely in this race, and is not too far away from Ferbs at this point, as Jochen isn't going to let Teeter go too easily as well, so this fight will carry on. A bit wide there for John Teeter on the exit, and now Jochen is very, very close and almost pushing there. We'll go on board with Jochen to see that from behind, and you can see Teeter just ran it out way too wide into the grass on the exit, lost a whole heap of momentum, and then that allowed Jochen to get the run. Opted to go for the little nudge as opposed to actually making the overtake, as Ferbs deep off the road down at Mulsanne corner, and that might give John Teeter the opportunity to get through, and it certainly does. John Teeter up into 3rd position. Ferbs drops into P4 ahead of Jochen at P5, so Teeter has taken the final place on the podium, and is looking already to start pulling away. So yeah, it's been a strong stint for John Teeter, as Sparrow gets it all drifty and sideways just before Tetra Rouge, and we'll get it nicely onto the straight and carry on. But as we continue onward, we've got another battle on here. Ash is really putting the pressure on Jester now. This is for the race lead, so this is potentially a very important move for Ash to get done at this stage of the race. And Jester is under a lot of pressure from Ash, who had that moment at the start and again has sort of been recovering from that ever since. And perhaps well, we've seen a variance of strategy as well between these two. Ash doing an extra stop to get onto the softs, whereas Jester did the stint on the mediums. So it's you know, that moment where the two strategies meet in the middle. Ash is catching up and is right on the back of Jester, and even pushing Jester along towards the first chicane, and they are running a line astern, nothing in it between these two, as Ash is just nudging the Corvette along the straight, and now into the braking zone. Will there be an overtake here? Not on this occasion, and that will allow Jester to hold on for a bit longer, but I think it's only a matter of time before Ash is able to get through, because Ash seems to have plenty of pace in the Charger, and is going to be here along the next straight, building up the speed, and Ash will get through, as the night has well and truly fallen here, and we are racing well into the darkness. Ash takes the race lead as they head into the second chicane. Ash just needs to hold on to it here, not go too deep, a little bit so, but gets away with it, and now we'll carry on in first position. So Ash looking very, very strong at this point in the race. Meanwhile, we look back to Heafy coming through the final few chicanes of the lap. Bit of a scruffy run through there, and actually picks up a couple of penalties for his trouble. So unfortunate there for Heafy. As we continue to watch on, Artsy coming through, heading into the pit lane for yet another stop in this race. And I believe this time Artsy is going to finally use the hard compound tyres. So Artsy yeah, puts the hards on, and will more than likely only do one lap on those tyres. But anyway, as we continue on with Jester coming into the pits for I think what will be Jester's final stop in this race. We're at that point in the race now where you can box and get to the end, and Jester is going to be among the first to do so, and gets a brand new set of soft compound tyres on, and fills up for the end of the race. Now what will happen next. Where will everyone filter through? This is the critical moment where you find out what everyone has in store. But Jester runs in 5th position, but everyone else in front does need to stop again. But the question is, how much fuel will they need to put on? And will they be able to gain any time if they can run deeper into this stint or make a shorter stop and put less fuel in it to the end. Heafy comes into the pit lane as well, and of course will be more than likely going to the end from here. Again, another set of the soft compound tyres go on for Heafy, and a load of fuel as well to get to the end of the race for Heafy. A bit further back, we've got Uncle Pete making some sandcastles, and we'll get going again. Not too much time lost in that one, as we're very much separated on track now since I've made that one lap stint on the medium compound tyres. As into the pits comes Sparrow for the final stop, so a lot of people making that final stop on the earlier side, I suppose, rather than running. I mean, some people were probably running to the end of the stint regardless. But anyway, into the box also comes Artsy, who is still in recovery mode in this race, and has finally got those hard tyres out the way. So that is, I think, the final piece of the tyre strategy puzzle. Everyone has used all of the required compounds and will be running softs for the rest of the race now from now on, and of course fuel as well going on for Artsy. So the only question mark now is fuel for the top 3, as Jester has a big moment there, or top 4 I should say, and how that compares to where Jester has come out on track. So we're about to find out the first piece of the puzzle as Ash comes into the pit lane. Remember, Ash had a lot of speed and comes in from the race lead, was ahead of Jester before Jester stopped. So how much fuel does Ash need to put into that car to get to the end? That is the key question between now and the end of the race, or until Ash comes out of pit lane, and we'll see where he re-emerges. We cut to the end, and Ash re-emerges in P5, just behind Jester, who is somewhere up the road. So yeah, that is the first piece of the puzzle. Jester ahead of Ash, but where will Tita slot in, as well as Ferbs and Jokin in this top 5 fight in this race? Uncle Pete brings it into the pit lane for presumably his final stop, and we'll get, of course, another set of the soft compound tyres on for the rest of the race. Probably has burnt through more rubber than anyone else in this race with all the sideways action. But regardless, this is my opportunity now to move up into P9 and hopefully put in a good end to this stint, as we got sideways on the exit into the gravel, and now we are just about bogged, wheel spinning trying to get this thing out, and we do eventually get out of the gravel, but that felt like we lost 100 years, or probably a couple of seconds, but that was painful. And I saw Uncle Pete was pitting. I knew that we need to make the rest of this stint count so that we can come in and fill up for the final time and be in a good position, but just pushed it too hard there, and yeah, had a very awkward moment. So that was really frustrating, and yeah, probably the worst mistake I've made in this race, I suppose, as we saw John Tita coming into the lane, as Uncle Pete has a bit of a moment there on circuit. But anyway, Tita in for the final time, and no new tyres going on, so Tita hoping to save a couple of seconds in pit lane. We'll see if that makes a difference, as Tita comes out of pit lane, remains in 5th position, or drops into 5th position I should say. So still has Ash and Jester up the road, so Jester looking good. Everyone who's making their final stops is dropping in behind, but we saw the pace that Ash and Tita had earlier on, so it won't be easy from here, as Artsy battling away with Sparrow, but it gets a bit too deep into Indianapolis. Gets it all sideways and can't get the move done on this occasion, and we'll stay behind for a bit longer. But anyway, into the pits we come then for our final stop, and we navigate pit entry safely this time, and it is going to be, of course, another set of the soft compound tyres going on for the final stint in this race. It's going to be a pretty long refuel, a bit longer than what I was hoping for. I could do a short one and just get to the end in map 6, but I really want to be able to put in some fast laps, so we fill it up to the top, and we'll come out behind Uncle Pete, but we can go flat out to the end, and we'll see if that's enough for us to potentially close the margin between us, but only time will tell. But out of pit lane, out through the first few corners, we'll turn it up into fuel map 1 for the rest of this race, and have some fun and see what we can do. And immediately we start to have to readjust with the extra speed we're suddenly carrying in a straight line, so it's going to take a bit to get used to that. But anyway, we head into Tet Rouge, out onto the back straight, the Mulsanne straight, and we'll see what kind of time we can make up as Joken and Verbs head into the pits, and yeah, we'll see where these two re-emerge as they come in. No tyres for Joken, keeping the same ones on, as Verbs does get a new set on. So different strategies even between the two of them in this race. But that has put Jester back into the race lead, and Jester going to the end, so in a great position in this one. Ash runs in P2 as Joken and Verbs still refueling, as John Teeter comes through as well, up into 3rd position. So Teeter's managed to hold that ahead of Joken and Verbs, as Teeter comes through the chicane under the Dunlop sign. Eventually Joken comes out of pit lane, slightly shorter stop, having not changed tyres, and then Verbs follows him out shortly after. So that's where the main competitors run in this race. Fairly decent gaps between everyone, but still time for change, of course. Anyway, as we continue to watch this battle, Artsy gets it done eventually on Sparrow, and those two finally switch places. Artsy back ahead and can set off after the next car. Heafy, though, is a long way up the road. Meanwhile, Joken a bit deep into the Porsche curves, and comes back on almost in front of Verbs there, who has to take a bit of avoiding action, but that was very close to being a disaster between those two who have been working together so far in this race, almost taking each other out. Here's the onboard with Joken, who just got a little bit deep into the Porsche curves, couldn't get us stopped, off into the gravel, and then just turns so abruptly to the right, getting back onto the road. And yeah, Verbs had to pull hard right to avoid that. Here's the onboard with Verbs through that little incident, was maybe a little bit deep himself, and then that could have been a lot worse, but thankfully they were able to avoid a collision there, and they'll both carry on. But that gives Verbs the position, and remember, I think Verbs has to improve on a P5 finish to increase his championship points, so finishing in P4 could be the difference in the championship, because Jester is set to massively improve his points haul if he can hold on to the race lead to the end of this one. So Verbs needs every position he can get if he wants that P2. But anyway, back on board with myself, heading into Indianapolis under pressure from Artsy. Of course, we're just going to let him go with the blue flags there. But we are still on target to potentially improve on our best lap. We haven't really done full, fuel map 1 push laps yet, so makes sense that we are improving at this stage of the race. On board with Jester though, and we'll hand over to Jester to explain what happens here.
Oh what was that? What the f was that? It looked like a fucking meteorite or something.
Well, unfortunately it was not a meteorite. After some investigation, I found out that it was actually just the electrical wires lighting up for some reason. I don't know why it did for Jester on this particular lap. It was weird because every time I watched this replay, this is a replay I recorded, it looked a little bit different, but it's the only time I could find it happening. I did look at a few other onboards of that corner at similar times of the race as Uncle Pete goes off the road, and I couldn't find another instance of the electrical wires lighting up like that. So I don't know, that was a bit weird, but yeah, it does actually kind of give that meteorite sort of like, you know, shooting star appearance when they the way they lit up. So yeah, that was weird, but anyway, we're actually going to get past Uncle Pete and move ourselves back up into P9 with the little off he had at the Porsche curves. So yeah, we're in this fight once again with Uncle Pete, and we can use map 1 for the rest of the race, meaning we can be a bit more competitive than we were earlier on. It's a short stint, so tyres should be fine, so we're in pretty good stead at the moment, as off the road goes Heafy at the first corner, going to make some sandcastles, and gets the reset there. Haven't seen that too much in this one, but anyway, Heafy gets the reset at turn 1. Seen a few people take quite a few shortcuts, but no one getting reset because of it. Anyway, back on board with myself, and Uncle Pete is catching up. He's got great straight line speed in the Corvette. We've probably only got about 3 laps to go in this race now, so there's really not a lot of time left as Pete goes for the move down the inside, gets it done. We were probably on the brakes a touch early there, but anyway, this fight will go on. I'm guessing Pete must have some fuel to burn as well at this stage, so yeah, it could be an interesting little battle between us for the rest of the race. Depends how much fuel Pete has. If he can carry that much straight line speed all the time, we're not going to have a chance. But we'll see what we can do as we head into Mulsanne corner, a bit deep down the inside contact, and we finally nail Pete off the edge of the road, and we're going to take off here because we're getting blue flagged, and I don't want to be sitting in the middle of the road the way I was when there's faster cars catching up. I was planning to let Pete go back past, but we'll wait for this blue flag situation to be resolved first, and then I'll worry about that, getting the flash of the headlights from behind, which is usually not a good sign. But anyway, we're heading into Indianapolis, and the blue flag's disappearing for a bit there, but I do want to eventually move out the way for whoever is coming through, as we still have Uncle Pete right behind us as well. But anyway, we come through Arnage, and here we're just going to pull out of the way. Uncle Pete had that penalty to serve anyway, so yeah, he'll drop back, and then yeah, we'll lift out of it and serve the blue flags. Sparrow will go blazing on through. There he is, and yeah, we'll stay off to the side. Pete goes through, and now we will race on as Pete gets a little bit sideways through the Porsche curves, and yeah, we are now ready to fight on. Ow, into the wall we go. Still no damage though. Still very much trying to survive this race without damage, and we're doing alright so far. We've only had a few bumps here and there, but are yet to actually cause any mechanical damage to the car, so I'm hoping that can remain true for these last few minutes of the race that we have left. But anyway, further up the road, Artsy coming into Mulsanne corner a little bit hot, slides it in, and wags the tail on the exit, but keeps things under control. Ferb's bit of a more significant off at the second chicane, but not under too much threat from behind at this point. Jokin seems to have dropped away in the later stages of this one. perhaps not changing the tyres might be slowing him down a bit. Not sure, but anyway, on board with myself once more, and yeah, we are, well, in a bit of a weird position because I don't know if we're actually going to be able to finish this race. We're going to start the final lap with very little time on the clock, and we may find ourselves in a similar position to Monza and to St. Croix in Season 1, where the countdown timer just isn't long enough for us to cross the line. But I think we'll be able to start the next lap, but how far into it we'll get, I'm not sure, but we're trying our best to catch up to Uncle Pete. He's just there in front of us, and we are going to have a bit of a last lap battle with Uncle Pete as we make our way through the final sector of what will be the penultimate lap of the race for us, lap 25. It'll probably be 27 laps or so for the race leaders, but Pete running it a little bit wide there as we're closing in, and closing in a lot actually, so we'll make the move down the inside into the last few chicanes, and we'll get the move done up into P9, but I have a sneaking suspicion Pete is going to try and come back at us in a very short amount of time, so we'll see what we can do as we've got Sparrow and I think Artsy monkeying about around the start line. There's Artsy parked awkwardly there, but anyway, we'll make our way through. They're both a lap ahead, so not gaining any positions unfortunately ahead of those two. But anyway, we carry on, and here is Artsy and Sparrow reversing along the main straight for Sparrow as Ash goes on through there. But yeah, these two not taking any further part in this one. They're stopping it where they are. But anyway, yeah, we are under a bit of pressure from Uncle Pete, and I think that straight line speed in the Corvette is going to be the difference here, as Uncle Pete is looking pretty strong in a straight line. He pulls out, makes the move, and I don't think there's really anything we can do at this point. Uncle Pete goes through, and despite the fact I'm in fuel map 1, I just don't have the straight line speed to match the Corvette. I can try in the corners, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Uncle Pete, when he's not drifting, he is actually very, very quick. So, yeah, I think that might be it for this little battle, unless he makes another mistake at Indianapolis. I'm not sure if there's a way we can fight back in this one, but we'll try and see what we can do. But we have another issue coming up as well, because not far behind us is the race leader, Jester. And Jester is, well, we're going to be getting the blue flags for Jester very, very shortly. And yeah, he is only a few minutes away from taking his first victory in Trans Am, so the last thing I want to do is interfere with Jester's race. So as we continue to race on, as much as I'm trying to chase down Uncle Pete, my attention is mostly fixated on the blue flags and the gap to Jester behind. So as we come in to Mulsanne corner, I actually went a bit deep in there, and I'm just going to leave it out off the edge of the circuit here until Jester goes through, and then we'll race on again. But yeah, that's going to be the end of our battle with Uncle Pete. Unfortunately, there's Heafy pulling off the road as well as Jester comes through. Myself and Heafy will chase on. Heafy flashing the headlights there. But yeah, we all knew it. We all, you know, could see that this was about to happen. Jester in the race lead with just a moment to go in this race, and a fairly sizable gap to Ash in second position. It's been a long time coming for Jester, but today may finally be the day that Jester takes victory in a Trans Am race. There's only a small number of seconds left in this race. We'll have a little run through the order, because we don't really have a finish line to watch everyone cross, unfortunately, with the way this race is ending. Ash in second position, and a very strong return for Ash. John Teeter, again, a good result, not a victory, but a strong run all the same in the Chevelle. Fourth place is Ferbs, and like I said, that's a very important position for the championship. Jokin P5, another solid result from Jokin, and then a little bit further back down the road. Was in the lead fight earlier on, but Heafy dropped away, and yeah, Artsy and Sparrow just doing some donuts and burnouts at the finish line. They're P7 and 8 for Artsy and Sparrow, and then Uncle Pete will take home P9, drifting through the final sector there for Uncle Pete. But yeah, here's my onboard of that moment down at Mulsanne Corner, which I've probably called Indianapolis a couple of times. I've tried to stop myself from doing that. But anyway, into Mulsanne, and yeah, just got too deep. Took to the gravel on the left to try and get it stopped. And yeah, I just left it off the edge of the road for Jester to go through. And yeah, beeping the horns, flashing the headlights in the case of Heafy. We're all celebrating this. Because it has been a long time coming for Jester. He puts in a lot of work behind the scenes. He creates the regulations, comes up with the race calendar, puts the whole thing together, and now we're going to see the moment right in front of us. After 3 full seasons, 15 races, Jester is finally going to break through for his first victory in Trans Am. A flash of the headlights as the timer hits 0. Jester wins here at Le Mans. Goodness me, what a race. 2-hour enduro. Jester comes out on top in the C2 Corvette, a car that has never won a Trans Am race before. Wow. What a drive. What an unbelievable drive. Ash takes P2 in the Charger. Awesome stuff on his return to Trans Am. He's only done 2 races this season, including this one. Fastest lap of the race for Ash as well. Awesome stuff. Yeah, what else is there to say? Quick side note. On this result screen here, Sparrow and Ash are around the wrong way. Sparrow and Artsy, rather, are around the wrong way. I've been trying my best not to do that. But there you go, finally happens. I've probably called Ash Artsy and Artsy Ash at some point earlier in this video, I don't know, but it seems to happen a lot. Anyway, but yeah, in reality, Artsy is 7th, Sparrow is 8th, so those results on the in-game screen are slightly incorrect. But anyway, what has that done to the championship standings though? That is the big question. Well, here it is. We all know John Teeter's a champion, but it's Ferbs who takes second position, 1 point ahead of Jester. That's all it took. And where did that 1 point come from? The fastest lap at Monza. That made the difference. They both had a race win, a 2nd place, and a 4th place as their 3 best results. But the fastest lap for Ferbs at Monza was what sealed the deal. Artsy just 1 point behind Jester, still on 88. And then Banananotto 4 points behind Artsy. Super, super close between all 4 of them. So, yeah, amazing to see such a close fight for second in the standings. Unfortunately, John Teeter had the title under control from halfway through the season. 3 consecutive wins at the start for John Teeter, and he did every round in a different car. I think it's worth mentioning as well. So really awesome stuff for John Teeter to be so successful in a variety of different cars. Jokin kind of gets into that top fight a little bit in this final race, or being able to knock out that 18-point race and replace it with a 24, brings his total up to 78 points. A little bit in no man's land. Heafy takes 62, having missed 2 races, can't knock out any of his worst results, scoring very consistently actually, 20 points, 20 points and 22 points. So very cool for Heafy. And then, yeah, Uncle Pete improving on his worst result, replacing a 12 with a 16 in this round. Unfortunately, myself not able to improve, and yeah, we only scored 14 points. Couldn't knock out any of my lowest scores with that. So, in fact, that equals my worst result of the season, P10 here. So, yeah, Ash, having only competed in 2 rounds, actually scores more points than I did. So, that's a little bit sad. But anyway, yeah. Then we have Sparrow, J-Dog, Yad, and Ren, who only competed in 1 or 2 races each. So, yeah, that is it for the championship standings. Really happy with the Monza race. The rest of the season was nothing special. Blue Moon was alright. But yeah. And of course, Le Mans, I was never expecting too much out of the Superboat. But that race, the mixed conditions, finding it out with Pete for a bit, and that first lap, it's got to be said, was awesome. So Le Mans was still a very, very fun race. One of the most enjoyable so far, I think. Especially that first lap when everyone was just going at it. Everyone was, had their own ways of going about the first lap. Some conserving fuel from the start, some on softs, some on hards, some like Heafy and Pete just blazing past everyone. It was a mess, but it was very much controlled for the most part. So yeah, anyway. And just like the end of last season, I've got some additional statistics and things from the season and Trans Am as a whole to share now. This is going into a bit of more ramble territory, but anyway, John Teeter scored 153 points total. That's if you didn't drop any rounds. 141 for Jester, 136 for Ferbs. So in total points, Jester was far better off in this than in the dropping rounds system. So interesting to note, I suppose. But yeah, look at that. 3 wins for Teeter, 1 for Jester, and 1 for Ferbs. 2 drivers getting their first wins this season in rounds 4 and 5. But yeah, consistency for Teeter. 4 podiums out of the 5 rounds, 3 pole positions, and only 1 fastest lap, interestingly enough. Artsy, 4th on this list, actually in total points scored 2 fastest laps and 2 pole positions, but couldn't put it together yet into a race victory. And here is the overall leaderboard of Trans Am points, all seasons combined. John Teeter leads the way, 396 points from 13 races, 7 wins, 10 podiums. There's no doubt about it. John Teeter is the Trans Am king at the moment. Jester just 10 points behind, having competed in all 15 races. Banana Notto on 318 points, quite a way off, having competed in 14 races. But yeah, those are the top 3 overall. Myself on 275 points in 5th place on this list. Not far ahead of Ferbs after he had a very solid season, having competed in just 11 Trans Am races, missing almost the entirety of the first season. Has a lot of points for that number of races. But anyway, and for not qualifying most of the time as well. But in addition to this, I have one more lot of statistics new for this season, because we're always focusing on the drivers. But I was curious, what do the car statistics look like? And after tallying up all of the statistics from all the seasons so far, here are the manufacturers' standings, or the car model specifically, I suppose. The Chevy Camaro is the winningmost car in Trans Am history, having taken 4 victories from the 25 times it has been entered. That is, of course, including multiple entries in one race, because we've only had 15 Trans Am races. But anyway, the Pantera and the Ferrari 365, interestingly, have both taken 2 victories, despite the fact they were only allowed to compete in the first season. The Mustang Boss has been driven more than any other car, still only with 2 wins next to its name though. And then other winning cars include the GT40, the Charger, the Challenger, the Cobra, and the Corvette C2 as of today. So yeah, a variety of cars have taken victories. The Chevelle and the Miura have both only been driven on one occasion, taken podiums though on those occasions, both by John Teeter. And then the Firebird Trans Am really competed at the start of season 2, and the sort of interest in that car sort of fell away, I suppose. But it did take one podium at the hands of Chevy in that first round at Daytona, and then the Shelby GT350 has a fastest lap next to its name, and the rest of the cars that have competed in Trans Am yet to notch up any of these statistics. Most notably, as I said, the Judge has been driven 4 times, twice by myself, once by Heafy today, and once by Ash back at Tokyo Expressway. Again, has never won a race, never got a podium, no poles, no fastest laps. So still waiting on that one for the Judge. Teeter will need to get you onto that, Teeter, and see if you can do it. But yeah, the Mach 1 hasn't really proven a popular car at all. It's only been driven 3 times, and yeah, has never really done particularly well. It worked alright for Jester and Sparrow at Daytona. Didn't go so well for Teeter at Laguna in season 1. The Superbird has also been driven 3 times, twice by myself, once by Teeter. Chevy Nova, a new car for this season. A few of us had a run in it, joking in round 1. I had a run in it at Monza, which, as I said, was a pretty good race. I really enjoyed driving the Nova there, so I might bring it out a couple of times next season. We'll see what happens. And then a lot of these other cars, of course, have only appeared once. The Christian Dior version of the Mangusta I drove at Broadbean Corvette convertible. Heafy drove that at Laguna, I believe. Mangusta, Matt drove that at Laguna. Aston Martin DB5, I think Joken drove that one at Laguna. Nissan Skyliner drove at Fuji. Jag, I drove at Brands Hatch. And the Corvette Stingray, I believe Teeter drove that at the Nürburgring, if I recall correctly. So yeah, a lot of cars have made one-off appearances. A lot of them we won't see again, like the Aston Martin or the Nissan, because it's American cars only these days, which is a bit sad. But I guess a lot of those cars would be far too light to fit into these regulations now anyway. So yeah, it wouldn't really work. But yeah, those are the car statistics. But yeah, that is going to do it for this one. So I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful. This has been a really fun season of Trans Am racing. I can't wait for the next season. Looks like we're going to be doing a 10 race calendar next time, so it's going to be a big one. We've got some fun stuff lined up by the sounds of it, so I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, we'll just have to see what the future brings. But for now, that is all. So like I was saying, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I know this has been a very long video. Might actually be the longest video I've ever posted on YouTube. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check that at some point. But yeah, crazy race. Really enjoyable. And hopefully we have more like this in the future. But that's all from me. So I'll see you next time. And goodbye.
wasn't all.
Well done, man.
I don't know.
Is that Jester?
I don't know. Hang on. While I was upset, it's because the FL and the pole was needed.
3.7 seconds up. Going in the last split, and you lost it.
No, I couldn't. I wasn't going to be able to make it. That's why. I wasn't going to be able to make it. There wasn't enough time. I needed another 10 seconds.
Yeah.
There
No
wasn't
one
enough
crossed the
time.
finish line.
Yeah, I was just. I stressed out, man.
Took you
At least,
3 seconds.
at least you didn't have 20 seconds extra for wheels, like we had the other night.
Oh, and to rectify the results too, Artsy finished ahead of me.
Oh.
Who was it then?
Oh,
mate?
that's weird.
Oh, hang on. Yeah. I'm not sure though. I'll need to actually look at things properly.
It's a strange one.
But yeah. Yeah, Artsy should be ahead of Sparrow.
Yep.
I'll look at the results on the
I was worried.
I'll
That
look at the stream and I'll look at the
What are the
where I
points for a
was,
win,
that
and
should
what are
be
the
enough.
points for? What are the points for the win? What are the points for fourth?
33
33
for
for the win. 26, I think, for fourth. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be close, yeah. Because you'll drop a result and gain some points, so that'll be real close.
Yeah, no.
Bit of rain now too.
Because me and Artsy stopped at the finish and were being mocked.
We're going to do a guard of honour. I was going to do a guard of honour at the finish line and give you some flashing lights and stuff when you come across.
It's what was my points at 26s and 8s or 4s and 6s? For my scores? I'm seeing it on the video. And yeah, that is a monkey off my back model. And I still made it hard on myself in every single way there. Like first 50 minutes of that was a disaster. I got a big penalty too, the first, second stop. No, it was, yeah, so going on to the medium, so I got the big penalty. And damaged the car. First stint, the whole first stint on medium, so I had a broken front and front leg.
I did a Jester at Nürburgring.
Like you,
I missed the pits and did a whole lap with no fuel. It's
I pushed him into the pits.
Beats Jester in the championship by 1 point.
1 point. I knew it. See, that's what I mean. Like, I knew I needed FL and pole and the win to get second off of him, and he needed to have a bad result here. So it was.
By 2 points.
So it was on. There was a possibility of it, but Ash is too good. I said to Meta, it's like having two Teters. I was like, we only had to deal with one for most of the championship,